A little girl lives in the forest with her wicked stepmother. Her father died. Her mother died. She's left with this cruel, cold-hearted being. In the kitchen are the only treats she ever gets. They're kept up in a top cupboard. She gets one rarely. It's used as a reward for particularly meaningless actions that allow the stepmother to stay in control. It's the girl's job to do the dishes. And when she does the dishes, if she makes any little mistake, she gets chastised and she loses her treats. When she doesn't do the dishes at all, she gets chastised and loses her treats. One day, stepmother comes home. She leaves the girl alone a lot. And one day the stepmother comes home and the dishes aren't done. And she chastises her endlessly. And it's just nothing the girl can say to calm her down. And finally, the girl manages to get out, I couldn't do them because the drying rack was full. Well, when the drying rack is full, there's no safe place to put the dishes. And the girl's already tried doing the dishes and laying them around the drying rack, but once a dish broke. So she was told never to do that again. So the stepmother, still remaining in a tirade, starts putting away the dishes. And in order to put the dishes away, she has to reach up high. The girl offers to put the dishes away, but the stepmother won't let her because she's not allowed to have a stool to reach up high, because if she had a stool, she would be able to reach the treats. And in a tirade, the stepmother finishes putting the dishes away, tells the girl to clean up the rest of the dishes and go to bed without supper or treats. This is for you. I just got this. I prayed for a good way to explain something. After doing a short cycle, I just did a 10-minute cycle, 10-minute standing flower. I went through each of the chakras. I meditated on them briefly, a couple breaths, did a couple of the balancing poses, and I paid attention. What's going on here? What matters? What's working well? I was stunned to find that the nose tip exercises worked very well. And I had several of you point out that last week when I went in a linear check-in from the root up the spine, I skipped the nose tip. This is exactly what I want you guys to do, which is pay attention to what's an anomaly. And because I skipped it, and I skipped it while I was recording and teaching you how to do it, I'm going to reveal that the teaching apparently is not just in showing you how I do it, but showing you how I interpret the failures or the anomalies. So I spent the entire week focusing on my nose tip because I had made such a dramatic slip up. When I do it quickly, as I did before now, I was able to recognize my third eye at the end. I started the cycle at the heart, went through, got to the third eye. And at the third eye, I asked a question. I said, how can I explain what I want to share in a way that might help you remember? And I got that story while I was standing and meditating. And it's perfect. See, often it's normal for people to think they have one problem when really they have a whole network of problems. And as soon as you identify that you have a whole network of problems, you're probably a little bit aware. You say, no, I can't think about this network of problems. I have to think about this one problem. This one problem is already too big for me to deal with. You can't tell me I have all these other problems. But really, here's how it works. If you say that your problem is that you're not doing the dishes enough, when really you're almost always confronting a drying rack that's full, and you don't have the capacity to put the dishes away, and you don't even mind putting the dishes away. You don't really like doing the dishes, so you're being difficult on yourself. You're judging yourself for not doing the dishes more frequently because it's a little gross. And then you're hard on yourself and you're mean. You're the little girl and you're the stepmother. But putting the dishes away, you simply can't reach where they go. Why can't you reach? Well, you don't ask why you can't reach because you don't have the time, because you're too overwhelmed by the fact that you have so many dishes to do. This is health. This is how health works. Health is always a network of challenges. And people will typically, as soon as one aspect, one symptom comes to the surface and demands your attention, it's very tempting to create a whole story around it and to say, I have this big problem. I am someone who is this. Now we have titles to it. I am da 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 da. I am da 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 da. So you can build an identity. You can share it with other people. So there's a whole complex of thoughts built up around this issue. And all of them are burdensome. They take effort to maintain. And when you're maintaining all these thoughts about yourself, it's really difficult to get a somewhat blank space. Go in there and say, what's the bigger picture? What is it that's inhibiting me from doing the things I need to do to make this change? And then you trace it. And as you trace it, you start seeing other problems. And you have to cultivate within you a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity in the face of your pain, in the face of your angst. You have to cultivate a sense that this is the way. And not only is this the way to be well, this is the way to reveal a whole broader world, a whole broader perspective on life. As you ask questions, you begin to see connections. And as you begin to see connections, you don't just learn how to cleanse yourself. In the case of this story, you're revealing multiple problems. This little girl is being rewarded with very little love. Love is being put in the form of a treat, which is being used as a reward. It's all control, control, control. She is absent. Her life is absent love. She's actually willing to do more work, but she's not allowed to do more work because if she becomes empowered enough to reach higher, she'll be able to reach the treats, which would undermine the love. Look at how beautiful this is. This is such an elegant metaphor for how so many people live. When you are used to intense epiphany moments where where the resonance of love, where beautiful, joyful, euphoric feeling is essentially a reward, you don't know how to make it normal. If you always interpret breakthrough moments as extreme, you don't know how to allow them to be a part of your daily life. That is what we're doing. Now let's look at this a little more practically. Let's say someone has a really bad sickness. Anything. If you say, I am this, you're investing in that as a focal point. Well, now it makes sense to invest it as a focal point. It's what's happening. But you must cultivate a sense that this is reality trying to get your attention. And you must cultivate a sense that life, the earth herself, Gaia, is inviting you to pay attention to this as a priority and to keep paying attention, to explore the connections and to allow them to take you into something beyond what you've known. Let's imagine when you're young, someone does you wrong. You're trying to become stronger. You run for a student leadership position in your school. And you used to be introverted, you used to be scared. And when you thought about running for this position, you got excited, you got empowered. And someone beat you for that role. You'd never been like this before. You never reached out and talked to people you didn't know. You'd never hoped on this level before. And yet someone else beat you. So all of that potential love, all of that potential joy got wrapped up in a goal. That goal motivated you to reach out to people in a way you never had before. But then when it didn't work, this other person ruined it. this other person, this person who beat you, took your love away. And you resent them for it. And at this point, you have a choice. Do you allow yourself to recognize that that was really beautiful? Those interactions that were new to you, that talking to strangers, that bridging the gap across your insecurity and reaching out to people who you would normally talk to, was a really special, sacred thing. What if that was the goal? What if that was the goal? What if the goal was not a goal? The goal was a way. The goal is a way of being. And the seeming goal of winning the student election position was a trick. That was life coaxing you out. That was life giving you purpose. That was life pulling you into a new pattern. And at that point, it's your opportunity to release the goal and to embrace the new way of being that's in you. And if you don't do that, and instead you cultivate this sense that this other person who beat you out for the student government position took your love away, and you nurse a resentment, where's that resentment going to live? Where's it going to live? In you. In you. It will exist in you. See, this is the dark side of spiritual awakening. That as you come to realize that you have the power to believe in the depths of beauty that bring love to life, that your belief exists, that as soon as you believe something, it's right here, it's present, it influences the world around you. Well, the other side of that revelation is that your resentment exists also. And your resentment makes you sick more than anyone else. When you are taking your energy in any form and fueling something that's negative on a daily basis as a normal part of who you are, two things happen. One, you have to hold it. You have to hold it. It's right here. Two, you don't have that energy to use for something else. That's two things that are really quite sad. Now let's make this even more accessible, shall we say. Forgiving someone for having hurt you is often seen as a weakness, a vulnerability. Like if I forgive that person, I'm going to open the door to allowing it to happen again. But there's a difference between saying, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. I'm going to be nice to that person, even though they were mean to me. That's something that people do. I've done that a lot. That's something that people do. But that's not forgiveness. That's something else. I don't even know if it deserves a name. If it does, it deserves a clinical name. That's an action people take to try to create space for hope, for something better. But it isn't forgiveness. Forgiveness involves allowing your understanding of a situation to completely transform. Forgiveness involves having the courage to go back into a negative situation that seems obvious to you. That person was really mean to me. That person took something away from me. That person was a jerk. That person enjoyed hurting me. And to go back in there and say, what else was going on? Now, this isn't to say that that person might not be a malicious, unhealthy individual. Somebody who enjoys inflicting pain, there's something going on there. But life uses everything. Gaia uses everything. When you are confronting a situation that shakes you up, it's a little more than challenging things make you stronger. It's often something along the lines of, are you willing to stare at yourself and ask, were you really on the right path? Were you really on the best path? Could you take a look at what you were doing and see an even more beautiful version of it? And can you do that work because something tragic happened? Because something mistaken happened, because something painful happened. This is more than just getting up and trying again. This is allowing yourself to surrender because something horrible happened. And you surrender at first by looking at you and saying, how can I do this differently? How can I change my relationship to this force? And what you might find is that, yes, you had a goal. And yes, that goal got broken. Yes, you were dissuaded from embracing that goal. But actually, in the process of pursuing that goal, you changed yourself. And it was changing yourself that mattered most. And then you get into a space of not knowing. You get into a space of openness and you say, what am I missing? What's possible now that I'm this new person? What's possible? What could I do? What could I be? And to take some space to get to know yourself as a new person, to take some space to say, I now have the courage to connect with other people. I now have the courage to bridge the gap and say, hello, what else in my life can I now do that I couldn't do before? Oh my God. Let's say you were someone who used to be too shy to talk to strangers, too shy to bridge the gap and share. And somehow you were brought out by running for a student government position, but you never got it. But then you can look back and say, wow, now I could sing. Let's say you used to sing alone. And now you have the courage to sing with others and to share your sacred essence. And you never could have just done it. You couldn't take your sacred essence and put it right in front of other people. It's too raw. It's too vulnerable. No, that's too much of a leap. And you didn't know how to ask for a smaller step. So life gave you one. And when life gives you something that doesn't make sense and you end up in pain, I'm inviting you to make a commitment to presume that something good is happening. It's really difficult to call a sickness good. It is really challenging to call an accident something to be grateful for. And this is more than just saying that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. This is a sacred space, a subtle space where you say, show me. I surrender. I allow what I know to be real, to change. I invite you to make this normal for you. And it begins by looking backwards. Where are you holding resentment? Where are you holding resentment? Hey, welcome. I didn't even say hi to anyone yet. Hello, nature, holy source. Oh. So here's the deal. If you want to be more powerful, this has been the theme for all, like, much of the beginning of these classes. And these classes are going to stick around. I'm going to leave these particular versions up and we're going to go further. But the reason we're starting where we're starting is that it's really important for people to embrace that on one hand, you're praying for something positive, and on the other hand, you're sabotaging it. Almost invariably. Almost invariably. And if you have learned to see the ways in which you're sabotaging it, likely you're scared of yourself. This is another place. There's an even deeper step to say, the part of me that's sabotaging my progress, let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. What's going on? Why are you saying no? Why are you saying no to life? What's happening? Getting in there and asking yourself why you do the things you do can be really difficult because it's so tempting to keep negative aspects of yourself outside the realm of normal, outside the realm of what you allow yourself to say, this is me. You want to know what happens when you sublimate, you repress a side of yourself and don't allow your own identity to accept that you are who you really are? You attract the negative aspects of yourself into your life as other people. really. And then they're going to give you something that you want the most. They're going to give you what you want more than what you really need. Then they'll give you what you need. It's all a mess. If you hold self-hatred, you will attract someone who hates you. They won't hate you all the time. Likely they'll love you sometimes too, but they'll treat you like shit sometimes. And you get to go, man, they're so mean. They're so mean to me. Why are they so mean to me? They're a really bad person, and I put up with this. But you know what they've given you in that moment? They've given you a way to distance yourself from yourself. They've given you a way to not hate yourself. It's an extraordinary gift. Would you ever really ask for it? Would you ever really say, hey, somebody come and hate me so I don't have to hate myself? Unlikely. But that's what you get because it's magnetic. And the magnetism always creates itself. And it will always continue to create itself until you change the equation by owning it. When you own yourself and you say, this is me, this is all me, I'm making this, something happens immediately. Something amazing happens immediately. And the gift doesn't have to be a year, 3 years away. It doesn't have to come after success. It doesn't have to be a cookie that you get as a reward. The gift is that you're immediately embracing your full self. So things start shifting into new gears right away. You still have to do work. You still have to do work. You still have progress to earn. But it immediately becomes progress you get to earn. You let go of the goal as your primary identity, even the goal of health, even the goal of health, even the goal of escaping suffering. Set those aside and say, what? What do you got to show me? What am I not seeing about this? What am I not embracing about this life that's here available for me? As soon as you ask, it begins to work like that. The earth uses everything. It's people that don't. The earth uses everything. Every ecosystem is interrelated. Things that are waste to one cycle are used by another. We're obsessed with, technological advancements and whatever human innovation that is coming down the pipes. We don't even touch the sanctity and grace of what exists right here. We don't even come close. Humans mess around with the genetic DNA and figure out how to get seeds out of watermelon. And I like spitting seeds out of watermelons, incidentally. We figure out how to get seeds out of watermelon and we're like, oh, we can affect life. Mostly we fuck up life. Mostly we ruin the cycles. And the primary way we do it is by messing with the gift waste aspect. We create stuff that we just want to get rid of, but we don't spend the time to get it to a place where it can be used. And in the case where we don't know anything that would use something that we use, we don't have the integrity to shift our attention to find a replacement. Find a replacement that could be used in another way. People are running around the world haphazardly trying to sort their recycling, not allowed to put paper, this kind of plastic bag in the recycling because it mucks up the machines. And we don't have the integrity as a society to make sure that they only use plastic bags that can be recycled. Why haven't we figured this out? It's really obvious. It should be a fundamental priority. Why am I talking? I just lost somebody. Why am I talking about this? It's sort of fun watching this stuff. Why am I talking about this? Because you are doing that. How are you using things that then you need to get rid of? And you just want to get rid of it. You want to get rid of it so much that you'll pay somebody to take it away. You'll give them your time, your attention, just to get rid of what you don't want. And you're not being graceful. You're not recognizing that there's value in what you have. There's value in what you have. Now, you don't want it, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. And if you can have the patience to hold it before you try to get rid of it, you can have a more blessed life. You can become stronger. You can interrupt negative cycles and replace them with positive cycles, and you can gain value in gratitude from whoever takes this away. So rather than having to pay someone to take away what you use as garbage, someone will pay you to take what you think is waste. And they'll pay you in a form that you need. It's useful to you. But you have to want this to get it. You have to want it, because if you don't want it, you can't see it. And if you can't see it, you're going to just stay in the same cycle. Practical stress. 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 Stress is fuel. Stress is fuel for movement. Now, believe it or not, you probably haven't been paying a lot of attention to why you may or may not take care of yourself well. You probably haven't been paying a lot of attention to when you get yourself to exercise and when you can't. Because there are multiple reasons that people don't exercise. Likely, if you have exercised well and you're not currently exercising well, you're hard on yourself. You're holding a negative, like, oh, you should do more. But here's the thing. Different kinds of stress fuel different kinds of movement. You can learn to connect the dots. There are particular kinds of stress that are suited to particular kinds of exercise. If you learn to recognize the way this connects, you'll learn to put yourself in a position where you can generate a certain amount of stress. You'll learn your tolerances. And then within that, at a certain point, you'll say, now I need to do this form of yogic practice. And then you'll do it. So you're able to engage with people in a way that's somewhat uncomfortable for a period of time. And then you know that as a result of working within your limits, you can do something that's somewhat uncomfortable, take the stress that you generate, do a physical practice. You do the physical practice, you've brought your health up a level, you're in a purer state, you make a better choice about what to eat. You've just affected several things all at once by being willing to be stressed out. Or you could just try to get rid of the stress. And if you just try to get rid of the stress, you'll probably find a way. Think about it. Like, there are lots of ways. There are lots of ways you can just get rid of stress. Some of them work. But it's like giving me your leaves. And I use leaves to make compost. All right. That's my conviction. This is all a preamble. People don't heal because they're afraid of the results, and they're more afraid of the results than they are of the suffering they're in. Very few people would accept that. Very few people would accept that because you don't want to believe that you're willing to suffer. But to invite you into a space where you accept responsibility for as much of your reality as you can is the place of power. That's the place from which you can make changes. And it's almost impossible to get you into that space unless you learn to take responsibility for some of the things that went wrong in the past. And that involves staring at how you resent, how you blame, how you feel like a victim, and looking into them so honestly that you can change them. This doesn't mean blame yourself. This means take responsibility for yourself. And there's a secret at the end of the tunnel. You go down this rabbit hole and you go through the confusion of saying, if it's not their fault, maybe it's my fault, or maybe it's my mom's fault, or ta-da, and you go through this chaos of things not making sense. They used to make sense. It was that person's fault. Now you have to ask a question, and in the question, it's confusing, it's chaotic, it's very unpleasant, it's stressful. And if you're willing to engage that stress for a while without getting an answer immediately, you're gonna find something out. It's not actually all your fault either. Some of it is Gaia's fault. Some of it is her messing with you. Messing. She's giving you a mess. She's giving you energy that's not your own. It's not even yours karmically. But it is her challenging you. And that can look like an accident. That can look like a death. That can look like a bad disease sweeping through the population. It's very hard to identify as on the same side as a force that would make you suffer. So I'm inviting you to identify as allies with a force that might make you suffer. Because at the end of the day, she has a much broader perspective of the forces that affect you and what does and doesn't matter. And that truth, the truth of her perspective, is present in your body. This is hers. This is hers. This is hers. She gave me all of this. She gave me this. She definitely gave me this. She gave me every molecule that makes up my nose. It's all hers. It's a loan. I'm going to give it back. And because I accept this, it's very disempowering on a certain level. And when I get into the acceptance of the fact that this is not just mine, she gets to be louder. I suffer more, and I feel much more joy. When I was early on in my path, an ex-girlfriend invited me to go out dancing. And I went out dancing with her, and she gave me ecstasy. And I'd never done it before. I didn't really like it. It was very pleasant. But I was learning to feel the same feelings that it induced. And yet, I was learning to feel those feelings in relationship. So I would feel those feelings when things were in a good groove. I would feel those feelings when I had my priorities in balance, when I'd done some yoga, when I'd eaten well, when I'd cleaned the house, and when I was engaging with someone I really liked. I was feeling bliss as normal. And when I did this substance, I felt that when I was just around it was totally independent of what was happening. I forced it. I forced that feeling into existence. And as a result, it wasn't there to help teach me what was and wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't there to teach me because I wasn't willing to feel the pain. See, the pleasure comes with the pain. We're designed to fit in to an interrelated reality that lets us know when things are going well and when things are not going well. If you consider pain as a negative that you just want to get rid of, you lose the communication that it's sharing with you. When you lose that communication and numb it out with something else, then the same negative pattern continues. And because you haven't followed the guidance that teaches you how to change your behavior, how to make different choices, you stay in the same fucking patterns. The only way to change it is to say yes to the things that are unpleasant more. Not learn to like them, learn to find appreciation that's bigger than the pain. I still get migraines. Typically, when I get a migraine, a lot of things are revealed to me at once. I'd say I am a 7 out of 10 at certain things. That's a 70. That's not great. I still hold back too much. I still push away too many insights. This is what I've been learning this week. This week, I put more of a priority on focusing on my nose tip. I neti potted twice a day. I did a lot of breathing exercises. I paid more attention. I think I did about 70%, as good as I need to. And I learned a lot. I learned that I am using my successes and many aspects of my extreme insight in some of the wrong ways. I'm allowing them to help me distract myself from some of the best choices. When I got up this morning, my son wanted to brush off the car. He wanted to brush off the car before my wife went out on an errand, and I was going to stay with him for the errand. Now, there's no point in him brushing off the car. Why would he brush off the car? She can use the windshield. He wanted to brush off the fucking car. But I was being stubborn. I didn't want to put on my clothes and go outside because I wanted to rush to get some work done before the class. I caught it. I breathed. I did it. I breathed. I focused. And I said, stop it. Get outside and play with him. And I lifted him up while he used the broom, little broom. He's got a little broom, and he brushed off the window. He really wanted to do it before she got in the car so he could beat the windshield wipers. He wanted to brush off the roof. I started to tell him there's no point in brushing off the roof. Shut up. I held him up higher. I'm hugging my son. We got down. He wanted to be pulled around on the sled. I said, there was enough snow to pull him around. I started saying there isn't. I was grumpy because I was trying to do something else that I didn't need to do. There was nothing else I needed to do. And making that measure is something that I think a lot of people are not good at. And I hope that by revealing the ways I'm struggling with it, I can invite you into a space where you can stare yourself. In what ways are you making things equal priority that are not equal priority? They aren't. There was nothing I needed to do before this class. So I didn't have to get to the computer at 9 a.m. I could go outside and be with my son. My body told me that. My energy body told me that. So by tuning into my energy body, I made a different choice. But here's the thing. Part of the reason I suffer with my nose, and I do, it bleeds. I get nosebleeds a lot. Part of the reason I suffer with it is because I'm not allowing myself to learn the lessons I need to learn there. If I just got surgery and soldered the blood vessels shut, or if I just numbed out the pain, I'd never make the change. How are you making a similar choice? Thanks for being here. I have put some donation links below. I'm getting 1 or 2 donations every week, and I'm grateful to each of you who does that. I've gotten a couple more clients recently, and it's extremely inspiring. I love the pattern I'm in. So the people I'm working with now and the way I'm working with you makes me happier than I've been in a long time. It's consistent. It's multiple people. It's more than I expected in a similar vibe of very receptive, doing the work, doing the yoga, evaluating yourself to an extent, coming back and bringing those lessons. I've worked for years with people who don't do that nearly as well. And it's not even close to as inspiring. When I find people over a distance in this manner, it's changing my whole business strategy, my whole career path, my whole focus. And I love it. And it leaves me free to do more of this online. And I do appreciate the donations. So if you've given thought to making one, please do. Venmo's better than PayPal. Both are acceptable. Venmo doesn't take fees. So that's awesome. Next. I want to teach you more about yoga. I'm going to stare and watch who disappears, and someday I'm going to learn to trace it. But I can't tell you enough that working with the yoga amplifies the energy work. They're interrelated on a level that I can't possibly encourage you to emphasize enough. It doesn't take a lot, and too much is a problem. Hear me. Too much is a problem. Mostly that's because it's very challenging to pursue a yoga practice on your own. And if you don't have a teacher around who can restrain you, it's likely you'll do too much work in a way that is damaging to your system. At the very best, it's numb. So when you overstretch something, and overstretching just means pushing in a way that's ineffective. You're using your muscles because it feels a little strong, but there's no reason to be doing what you're doing. Like it doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't open you. It might build some muscles more than others, but it numbs others because you're overworking in the wrong way. Awesome. No one disappeared. We have the capacity to be more in tune with our bodies. And the best way I know is to commit to a medium level of work. That's why I'm giving you these shorter practices. That's why a lot of good yoga practices online are shorter. And it's not just because it's suited to video. It's time for people to get good at this, and it's moving in waves through the culture. It's time for you to trust that you can take care of yourself profoundly in 20 minutes. I really like the 20-minute time, sometimes half an hour, sometimes 10. 20 is a really great goal. 20-minute practices are very liberating. They will change your relationship with your entire day. And I want you to memorize them. I want you to memorize them. If you don't make the commitment to memorize them, you never will memorize them. It's very unlikely you will. You need to want it. When you want it, it creates space for it to happen. Grounding and standing, it's two practices. The grounding have multiple versions that I'm going to keep introducing you to more of. The standing, we're going to keep simpler, but there are other versions as well. You can do it much more slowly. It can be more like Qigong. You can do it a little more aerobically. But these are minimal goals that you can take on, all right? Memorize two practices. There are two up there. There's links under each with written guidance for how to do them as well. So that's giving you more words and more precise adjustments that can help you. So you can print that out or you can look at it online. There is a massive, beautiful gift you could give yourself. I was thinking for a long time about what's different about teaching someone when you're not close and when you're not present. And so I prayed a lot for guidance that would help me teach people who are far away. For a long time, I was told that it's too dangerous to teach students far away. And then people got ahead of me on YouTube and, people are learning on YouTube. My teachers were kind of like, restrain that. It's dangerous. They might hurt themselves. But bearing in mind that there are concerns about not being with a teacher, not being with someone who can help you draw limits, I prayed. And I started to find a space of like, what's an advantage about not being around? The most profound advantage is that you have to be more responsible for yourself. Now, yes, that does mean you might make some more mistakes, but I am confident that the benefits are far outweigh the dangers. Don't hurt yourself. Don't do something over and over again that hurts. Your body tells you. Don't presume it's good. Don't stay in it if it's relatively painful. Don't do it. There are certain rare instances in which holding yourself in a very difficult position that's got some pain to it could be good for you. But it's not a primary need, and it's not a beginner or even an intermediate level need. What you need to do is learn some really simple relationships with your body. And today I want to give you one. I'm going to make a better video about this because it's so crucial. This is the same for energy and for physicality. This is part of why I'm so excited about this. I cannot tell you how beautiful it is to learn this lesson. It's very simple. You just have to practice it over and over and over again. You draw a circle. This is horizontal, okay? This is what horizontal means. You draw a circle around the horizontal plane of your body wherever you feel something. Then you ask, what is going on around this entire circle? When you feel something here, what is going on here and in your back at the same level as your heart? All of these things tell you something. Last week, we addressed this in terms of how do the chakras communicate? How are the chakras communicating relevant information to you? This week, I want to emphasize the physicality. And it's really simple. There's a deep concern when you're doing yoga on your own that you might put yourself in a bad position. So we're going to do two things. First, don't strain in a way that's mental. Don't say, I need to do this. Like once you took a class with somebody 3 years ago and they told you you need to shift your hip more. Don't use your head to always do that from now on, because your body didn't show you that you need that yet. What I want you to do first is put yourself into the first relatively natural position that's close to a pose. It's close to the version of the pose that you see me doing, just close. And you're doing it naturally. You're not making 3 mental adjustments. You're not saying, oh, it looks like his hips are there and there. Don't think that much. Do something close that is natural. And then just stay. Just stay there. Don't go deeper. I know you could sink deeper. Don't. Stay right there. Here's what you're going to find. It's likely that you're almost always trying too hard. It's easily the most common mistake that I see people make. Try too hard. And trying too hard means you go as far as you think you can go, which is almost invariably too far. Really. It's not too far because your body can't handle it. It's too far because it makes you numb. It means you're pushing into a situation where you're no longer feeling natural. An animal wouldn't do it. I hope this is funny. If an animal wouldn't do it, don't do it. Animals know how to move. You seen monkeys climb? They don't do shit that doesn't feel natural. They don't lift their leg in an awkward way because they have the mental goal of lifting it to the side and up 3 degrees. So you need to think more like a creature. Creatures are likely more alive than you. Creatures move. Creatures that aren't ripped from their parents and kept in a home without anyone else of their species, they move. They move. They're natural. So I want you to be more like that. When you look at me guiding a yoga sequence or anyone guiding a yoga sequence, just do your best to emulate it in a way that's natural. So that's the first sort of easy version, and then stop. Now I want you to watch what you feel. I want the next correction you make to come from your awareness of what you're feeling. Not your mind saying I should get deeper and no. This is a really simple, huge difference. Don't let your head make the next choice. Your body makes the next choice. And your body makes the next choice based on what do you feel prominently that's somewhat awkward or tense. Next, draw that circle. And when you draw that circle around your body, your goal is to balance. So if you feel this is the most common one, right? You feel the front of your thighs. You feel the front of your thighs here. When you sink, my knees are quite bent. This is goddess pose. I feel the front of my thighs. So I don't do anything. Now I'm going to lean forward because my goal is to feel equally around my thighs. And I'm going to lean forward and I'm going to allow a little bit of difference left and right. A little bit of life in me until I sense the way the front and back of my legs are working together. And when I do that, I adjust the position. I stand differently. But I'm not standing differently because I'm trying to stand differently. I'm standing differently because my legs are telling me there's a better way for them to work. And what happens is you rediscover the best ways to move and the best ways to hold yourself still. And when you rediscover those things, you keep that blessing. You keep that blessing in a way that you know it. It's built in. You haven't memorized it. You haven't copied a list of adjustments. You learn why they work that way. And you will rediscover the major yogic adjustments. But the problem is teachers often give you a random adjustment from their head. They see something in you. It's true. You're not adjusting your thigh enough in this way. You're not tucking your tailbone. But there are also several other things that you need to fix. And if you don't find them, you've lost the opportunity to find them yourself. And I want you to cultivate the desire to figure out from the inside out what the best ways for your body to move are. Don't you dare bring your legs closer together because some teacher once told you to, when really you have broader hips than that teacher did, and it would really suit you more to keep your legs wider. Stay strong. Allow yourself to get more freedom to rewrite it. Be broader, feel your balance, and if it's truly better to bring your feet in, discover why. Feel the lines of energy moving through your body. This is another theme I'm not going to emphasize, but there are lines of energy that move through your body and affect your physical movement. I want you to learn to feel the connections between your muscles. That's why we do so much of this. When you do this, you feel the connections. I want you to feel the connections between different parts of your body. And as you feel the connections between how they work, you'll feel the connections between how they don't work. You'll start to reveal to yourself ways in which a dysfunction in your hip relates to a dysfunction in your neck. Because this is always how it works. We live in a world, I've got enough time to do this. We live in a world where we've got doctors that specialize in individual areas of your body. I'm not saying there's not some use in that, but it's bordering on insane because every aspect of health involves an interrelationship between systems in your body. When you specialize on the lymph system, you don't learn to recognize the connection between the lymph system and fear. If you think that it's hippie woo-woo shit to address how fear affects your physical health, you're certainly not going to learn to recognize how fear can generate cancer at the level of your solar plexus. Because your kidneys digest fear. That's known in Chinese medicine. It's at the same level as your solar plexus because your solar plexus holds your prayers. Your solar plexus holds your prayers and takes in information from the world. So your prayers need to be a negotiation between the information you're taking in and what you put out and try to create. And when you don't know how to do that well, you are afraid. You no longer have fear. You no longer have fear that this might go wrong. That's useful. You become fear because you don't know how to change it. And if you hold it for too long, you get sick. And if you hold the same thing for too long, it can become cancer. If you hold the same dysfunctional thing for too long, it can become cancer. And when you find yourself in a position where things are going wrong in one of these ways, one of the first things that you need to do is learn to feel. And when you're in pain, it's really challenging to convince someone that they need to learn to feel more. Now, I'm not suggesting you never use things to relieve the pain, but I am suggesting that you keep moving towards yourself. You keep moving into becoming more aware of this and what it's telling you. Because this is your relationship with the world. This is the interplay between you and the earth herself. And she's trying to have a conversation with you through your own body. And the chakra system is the best way I know to try to make sense of this conversation. It's very simple. When you feel here, that's telling you something about the signals she's trying to get you to focus on. When you feel in your gut, that's telling you something about what she wants you to focus on. It means that's a priority. That is more important than all the other things you could be focusing on. And I invite you to stick with it enough to move through the challenges it brings, because I've said in 5 different ways, and I'm going to say in another 6 or 7 today, in order to be more euphoric, joyful, healthy, to love life more, you must be willing to experience more pain than you used to feel, because you used to have coping mechanisms that helped you avoid, numb out, and distract yourself from your suffering. And when you pay attention to that suffering, all of a sudden you can't keep staying in the same negative patterns. You can't stay in the same negative patterns because your system is saying, this sucks. And you've told yourself you have to stay in that negative pattern because you have to pay off this debt. But if you never pray deep for a better way to pay off that debt, it's likely you're not going to find it. I have no debts. We own our house completely, and we have a fair amount of money in the bank. This is not vague. It's happening because I know how to make these forces work together better than I used to, certainly. Now, I was born with a fair range of privilege, and my family is pretty good at a lot of these things. We inherited an adeptness at making certain forces work together, and it's my deepest hope that I can teach that in a way that's beneficial. I'm going to transition this into question time, and I want to say something about what I'm doing here. I don't know if any of you were around in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Napster got going. Napster was one of the first sites that allowed you to just share music files. So for a while there, everybody was taking their CDs, they were putting them on the computer, and you could just connect to people's computers all over the world and download any song. And there were no copyright protections on the encrypted information because they hadn't thought to do that. So for a while, music was free. It was a beautiful feeling. It was a really beautiful feeling. And in that beauty, there was this sense that fuck the music industry. You know, like a handful of people get really famous and everybody else gets screwed. It's so impossible to make it as a musician. So difficult. Everybody's got the same dream to beat everybody else, but the ones who really make it are few and far between. It's like athletes. It's not like many other professions you could go into. And there was this sense of liberation for a while. The music was free. We were getting around the music industry. And in that freedom, I remembered something. I knew it was going to die. They came in and crushed it. I didn't know, but I was afraid it would die. But in that, I evaluated something. I said, how's the world going to change because of the internet? Now, I was thinking about this Don Quixote story, and please bear with me if this seems a little off, because I think you're going to love it. I was thinking about this Don Quixote story that I've shared in the past, that it took 150 years after the invention of the printing press, 150 years before someone wrote a novel. Before then, nobody wrote novels. You had myths. Nobody wrote the myth. It was shared. It was a story that many people shared. You didn't make up stories for the hell of it that you would copy 1,000 times. Nobody wrote a book 1,000 times unless it was very, very sacred and valuable. So when the printing press got invented, all of a sudden somebody could write a story and share it broadly because they could just write it once, get it typeset, and print out 1,000 copies. But until that was possible, it was difficult to imagine how to use this medium. And in the early 2000s, I was applying that to the internet. I was saying, wait a second. Right now, everybody's just sharing what we used to make here. But what is going to be possible now that this exists that was never possible before? And so I evaluated a couple of things, and I'm mostly going to stay true to this. I mean, I've mostly stayed true to this, and I think I'm going to continue to. Selling information doesn't fucking make sense. It doesn't make sense because there's nothing, I get no benefit from, there's no loss. There is no added cost to me for one person to watch this video or 1,000 people to watch this video. So in the past, a publishing company or a music executive had control of the flow of information because they were the ones that enabled it to be put into a form that could be distributed. But with the internet, that's no longer true. So forcing people to pay me every time they download my class doesn't make sense. In fact, if I could pay you, maybe I should consider paying you, because I get money from how much it gets shared. If this gets shared more, if this gets viewed more and then shared more, I get money. I could get money from YouTube. I can get the potential gift of it reaching clients. So just by watching me, you're paying me something that I need. And I figured this out in 2000. Just by giving your attention, you have something valuable. You see how this is coming full circle, I hope. Your attention is valuable. The idea that you would pay me just to watch this doesn't make sense. So I need to pay you. And I hope I'm doing that. I'm trying to give you value. I'm trying to make this worth your time. And I'm trying to respect you as I do that. Because the fact that you trust and respect me is a gift to me all on its own. If I happen to teach you and guide you in a way that is better than the other options you've got, please throw down and give me some money. But you get the difference. If I happen to help you become a healthier person, replacing a better option that the other options that you have, could you please, pay attention to the fact that I'm doing my best to make this majorly efficient. I am doing my best to help you as much as possible in as little amount of time as possible. I am doing my best to create the greatest value for you that I can. So please share it with other people with that in mind. Please offer me that respect that you can help this work. Because as we build something together, there's more power in it and it's more effective, and we can literally become healthier together. Oh, I haven't been reading the comments. Bless your hearts. This is going towards the earth. One of the biggest reasons I see people check out is because as you wake up, you see more pain. As you contend with that pain in yourself, you will see it more in the world. You'll see more of the pain in the world. You'll see more of the ways that the earth herself is suffering. You will feel the pain of the ecosystems that are cut by what we build. Because it's there. You'll feel it. And it can be really challenging to agree to feel that, because you can't change it all. And I'm inviting you to do it anyway. First, because you will be healthier within yourself. You will be healthier if you acknowledge the suffering that is around you without denial, without rationalizing it. But then you take that stress and you ask, what can you actually do to live a healthier life? So you will be sadder sometimes because you will see the pain. But then you pray for a way to contend with that. And when you turn it into art, when you take back your sense of what entertainment is or what art is, and you make it more prayerful, you make it more sacred, and you say, how can I serve these suffering ways? You'll pay yourself with deeper health. So I'm going to make a prayer. And then I'm open for any questions you might have on this or anything, any spiritual issue. That's what it'll be time for. Gaiana, 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 Gaia, Gaiana, 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 Gaia, Gaiana, 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 Gaia, Gaiana, Gaia, Gaiana, Gaia. I am more of the earth than I am of any one nation. I am more of the earth than I am of my species. I am the love of the earth, even when my heritage and my culture tell me to believe otherwise. May I continue to trust the sacred essence that I have been taught to embody, even when faced with brutal threats and fear, even when confronted with the deep sicknesses that are exposed by the greatest love. May I trust the greatest love that flows through me, the love between me that extends beyond this incarnation, the love between me and the earth, the love between my spirit and this lifetime, the love between my soul and this world. May I trust this love so much that I am able to move through the extraordinary pain and suffering that is present, that I am able to be present in the healthiest ways that I can, while continuing to enjoy and to cherish a beautiful life. Any questions? Oh, thank you, Fatima. Shenanigans. Yay. Thank you, Shenanigans. That's the hope. Incidentally, I've wanted to say something else, and since there's not a question yet, I'm gonna say, um, when I have learned enough to be valuable as on some level as a spiritual teacher and healer, I get into the archetypes of other spiritual teachers and healers of the culture, and there's some very powerful magnetism. Like once you learn how to embody a particular role, you can sort of feel everybody else who's done something similar, and there's a pull towards their success and their mistakes. And I find that the previous generation, the generation coming out of the 60s that integrated a lot of Eastern thought and some mystical New Age stuff, they made a lot of mistakes, largely in my experience, because they were mostly men and they mostly got too high on themselves, accepted attention overdone. They were able to impact people so dramatically that people would just sort of go, what? And give them too much money and offer them sex and give them too much influence in a way that it was like a bad trade-off. They were bringing something of value that was absent into people's lives, but then they were creating problems that hadn't been there before. And there was no criticism. There was no ability to see their mistakes because they were almost peerless. They operated like little isolated kings, and they didn't really allow anyone near enough to them to criticize them effectively. The beauty of YouTube is that it's all right here together, right? And there are all these different like stats and stuff. So like I can see who's here and who's not, and when you like it and when you don't. And there's a humility in this. Like, be with everybody else, like I'm not above this. I totally appreciate it when you click like. I'm very grateful to you for giving me your appreciation in this way. I'm really grateful when my things get shared. I could look at the stats and find out the ways in which people are sharing my essence, my work in this way. And there's a real humility in it, to not think I'm above people who are teaching, crafting, people who are doing extraordinary work, teaching parents how to do crafts with their children and bring love to life in that way. This isn't any better. In many cases, good spiritual teaching has been absent from people's lives. And as a result, it can have this phenomenal impact. But I look forward to a time when it's much more normal, when this kind of a role is something that many people need. And you turn to me because I can help you do things that I help you do. And there's not so much ego in it, and it's sort of fun to look up and appreciate the way YouTube works and how I'm a part of a greater community that it's like an elegant game that helps us all heal. So I'm glad to participate in it. I feel like it keeps me humble, and please like, share, subscribe, get other people to subscribe. I'm excited to watch more people arriving. I'm excited to watch people appreciate each of the videos more in many ways. And it all circles back into a great joy that I have to see people again and again, week after week, and to learn a little bit about you, even just in the chat window. So thank you for being here. All right. Good, cool tip, Fatima. Oh, wait. All right. Fatima, Todd. Aha. So Tamim is asking a question, and I do want to do a little bit of time just for questions before I do readings. 11:11 here in the East Coast. Tamin's asking, why do people still look down on fantasy? Isn't the master in fantasy? Would love for you to speak on working with the linear and masterful living. Huh. I've had a certain basic joy in the fact that when I was young, I got excited about the world in many ways by not being in the world. Like, I learned to read because I found the Wizard of Oz books, and I progressed to read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. And at the time, that did not make me cool. Also at the time, incidentally, I wore plaid shirts, and that did not make me cool. And it's been pretty interesting to watch the world kind of catch up. It's like, oh, as the novels that I read as a child got turned into movies, people were like, oh, this is really cool. I get this. Why is this cool now? And it took this support system where it's like, we could as a society see the same thing, and we could amp it up and like make it dramatic with special effects. But me and my friends, we learned to do that from within. And the same inspiration that enabled me to imagine with these authors, they were writing stories and I could be there, and I would be there. That's the groundwork of who I became in so many ways. Like, I'm able to use my attention in a form that helps focus and bring to life great beauty. And it's absolutely related to how it began in these novels. When people look down on this power, I think there's an aspect that I didn't get then, which says, ultimately, be here. Be here. It doesn't matter how amazing you can be if you don't know how to be here, because overall, you came to the earth to be on the earth. And I do think there's a danger in drifting off into outer space too much. One of my major lessons, and I'm going to say a lot of people might not appreciate this, it might seem disrespectful, but I read Autobiography of a Yogi, and I got stopped by my own personal guidance when his teacher was levitating. His teacher was, I believe his teacher was levitating. I have no trouble believing this. His teacher was levitating one day and with his students, and the man's wife came down and started chastising him for not spending enough time with her and her family, her and their family, their sons. And then she saw he was levitating, and she prostrated herself on the floor, and she started going, oh my God, forgive me so much. And she became his devotee. And my spiritual guidance stopped me in their tracks. I didn't keep reading the book. And I have to tell you, I'm going to finish it. I really appreciate Yogananda. He's awesome. Nonetheless, I stopped and I never finished the book. My guidance said, don't you ever fucking do that. What kind of teacher doesn't take care of his wife and sons? Is that who you want to be? See, we get this masterfulness out of whack. The linearity involves, if I can get 10 of you, I've been pretty consistently for 2 months, 10 people have been coming to these classes. 10 of you really believe in me, I become stronger. I become stronger. I become a more amazing person. I really do. I can channel the energy of all this respect in me, and it makes me something great, greater. That greaterness is a gift of your belief. Now, that's by no means everything that I am. I learned to be me when I was all alone, when I was just with God, when I was just with Gaia. And I do change when other people believe in me. But when I make other people's belief in me more important than my relationship to God, that's when I think we get these master traditions where it's like the dude is just a figurehead for the people. And it's this sick sort of relationship, just like Drumpf, where essentially the leader is dependent on the students and the students are dependent on the leader, and they're all out of tune with love and the earth. And my guidance said, never do that. Prioritize your family. And so for a couple of years since my son was born, I've actually backed off. I haven't been teaching. And I've learned to be a father, and I've learned to stare with more humility. I've learned to stop avoiding my faults. I was able to avoid my faults more when I was teaching classes regularly, because I had this regular gift of sort of respect. And when I held that respect, it was easier to avoid staring at myself as honestly. And I was taught internally not to trust that. I was taught to not identify too much with other people's respect for me, but to be grateful for it and to let you know that I will do my best to cherish your respect and love. And if I can inspire devotion in you that brings you to life and helps you become a better person and be healthier, and to make art that brings the same love you're feeling to life, I am so honored. I am so honored. And at the end of the day, I'm measuring how I impact my family. And when I get carried away with my work and too excited about the potential and the kind of attention I can get from it, I become a worse father and a worse husband. And that can't be right. So I'm going to back away when that kind of thing happens. And as part of that, this is going to go on for another 5 months. But when we have a new baby, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to reevaluate my approach, and we'll see what happens from there. And that's the model I'm going to work in for a while. Okay, shenanigans. All right. Yes, you can definitely repair your relationship with food. I had a 2-hour conversation with one of my oldest friends last night, who's a doctor. And, we've gone on different paths, but ironically enough, medical science seems to be exploring more of the things that I care about these days. And we were really able to talk a lot. And much of it comes back to food. I have been intending to do more about food for a while, and I'll just give you a primer. But here's my basic advice. Your life is a tension. Your diet is a tension between actual health and emotional health. And that tension is okay. A lot of times people try to completely sever emotional health from their relationship with substances and food. And as a result, you're supposedly going to become healthy because you're going to only eat this list of things that are healthy. But the fact of the matter is, if your emotions aren't healthy, that makes your body sick too. And what that's by way of saying is, if you grew up loving something, you can't just sever it from your diet without creating harm. However, you may find that you're hurting yourself so much by what you're eating, and you're not feeding yourself enough of what you really need, such that becomes the biggest problem, hands down. And the ways in which you're coddling the little kid in you are a bigger problem. So I encourage everybody to go through periods of much greater health. And I encourage you to go through it with the knowledge that you're going to back off. You'll go back to eating pizza, but I want you to commit to spending 3 to 4 weeks. A month is really good. A full moon cycle is 3 to 4 weeks eating really well. Eating well by classic standards. And even, quite frankly, if you have the stamina for it, eating vegan or even just raw. What that'll do is it'll feed you what you really need, not just in form of nutrients, but in the form of how much do you need to know? There's something called the microbiome that lives through your stomach and into your intestines. And it's an interrelationship of many forms of bacteria and other things that actually they're independent life forces that live in you, and they heavily influence your diet. When the microbiome is sick, it's been fed sick stuff for so long that that's who you think you are. And it lives in your intestines and it clogs your intestines. In that clogging, you're not taking in healthy nutrients. So there's this double negative of you're feeding yourself the wrong stuff, and even the good stuff you do feed yourself doesn't get integrated. So what you need to do at that point is starve it. If you starve an unhealthy microbiome for 3 to 4 weeks, it'll release. It often happens after 2. And let me tell you, it's a little bit gross. Like for many, many people, it's 2 weeks and it's like lots of diarrhea. And when you get rid of it, it's really gone. And at that point, you repair a healthier microbiome by feeding yourself a lot of good stuff with good bacteria and good enzymes. There's a science to this. I can refer you to a book that's a good foundation, Rainbow Green Live Cuisine. It's by this guy, Gabriel Cousens. You don't have to follow it all the way by any means. But if you allow yourself to go through this transition where you commit to a month of eating, by removing the meat and the dairy, you're going to let go of unhealthy bacteria in a way that you can let it come back. But you want to establish a good, healthy microbiome first, closest to the intestinal lining. And when you do that, it's going to reinforce health, and you'll be able to return to even some junk food in a way that's not terrible. So that's the quick primer. The basics beyond that: eat less processed food. When you really need to, eat some, because feeding your emotions does have a purpose. Try not to, don't overdo shit for no reason. When you need to binge out occasionally, okay, but at least recognize that something's happening. Likely you're feeding the child within you that's not getting enough love. So feed it the food, because in many times that's the only language it's going to understand for the moment. But recognize while you're doing that, don't feel guilty, but commit to the fact that you've got some work to do to repair your relationship with yourself, and commit to doing that work. Once you commit to doing that work, hopefully you'll gain the sort of sense and integrity that you can take this break for a month. Realize that it's somewhat harsh. Don't think that you have to do that indefinitely. It's not better to do it indefinitely, because you might have to return and give a hug to your inner child. But if you can do this interplay, it'll be less violent to your system. And in the end of the day, you're going to end up wanting healthier stuff. You'll want more smoothies. You'll want more rice and vegetables. But you might have to teach yourself to like those things again. Because as long as you're in a system where you're used to being fried, you're used to having intense tastes, and you're used to having a microbiome that's attuned to junk food, you can barely taste good food. And I just want you to trust that it's not an indefinite process. You get that gut, you get the intestinal lining to release by eating just raw food for a month. You'll be able to like put yourself back together in a way that, you'll actually enjoy a lot of healthier food more, and you don't have to be completely severe. Give yourself a steak or a burger every once in a while. Just try not to make it essential to your diet. So it's very dynamic. I'm much more capable of supporting you if we're doing ongoing work, but I'm happy to keep answering questions week to week if any of you bring them back. Okay, so so honestly, I didn't read the more context shenanigans. That's great. Maybe you need to be less hard on yourself. I would say is if you know how to be vegan for even just a month, you could accomplish what I just registered. Something in you're going through the tension between physical health and emotional health. Something in you is needs doesn't feel satiated unless you're getting the emotional comfort food of junk food. Feed it, but recognize that there's a need there that this is ultimately not going to take care of. So if you could get in there and do that work underneath the lack of self-love, plausibly some kind of trauma, or even just some neglect that is carried over from your childhood, get in there and be present with it. It can heal, and once it heals, you will feel less of an impulsive desire for the junk food, and you'll feel a more direct connection with the ways in which eating too much of bad food makes you feel a little bit sick. But you want to aim for the relationship where it's not a head thing. It's like your system itself says, I don't want more of that. If you're doing pizza every night for a week, I would encourage you to chill out on that. Like, honestly, try to mix it up. Um, I'd even encourage you to skip some meals rather than immediately force yourself to like abstain on everything. Skip a meal here and there, and then wait. I'm getting something else. Okay, I can't get too much. I'm getting into specifics about you. So we'll have to talk directly, but I don't want to give generic advice on this issue because it really can be different for everyone. Think about this relationship between physical health and emotional health. Don't be too hard on yourself for going back and forth, but steer yourself towards the physically healthiest foods eventually. Okay, 3-3. What do you mean by starving the microbiome? Um, a microbiome is it's basically an ecosystem of bacteria and other things that lives in your colon and stomach and helps you digest the food you eat. The microbiome can vary widely, and it eats what you eat. It also reinforces what you eat. So if it's attuned to junk food, it wants junk food, and it actually contributes its desire towards you maintaining it. If you don't give it what it's used to getting for a month, a lot of it will die, and you'll diarrhea it out, and it will leave. And all of a sudden, it will be much easier to eat in a consistently healthy pattern. That's the simple version. The hopefulness in this is like it's not indefinite. You don't have to use your discipline to force yourself to eat well forever, well by classic even measures. You don't have to force forever. You just have to have the discipline to make it a month, and then it gets a lot easier. And from there, you could even repair it and eat some things that are worse, but just intend to use more discipline. So you really do shift your diet to be more consistently healthy, and you eat the burger when you're going through a tough challenge, and that may well be the emotional support you need. Now, a lot of people might not agree with this approach, but I've found it to be the most effective. Howdy, welcome. Awesome. Yes, exactly. And Haldi, if you are, I imagine you understand this microbiome stuff maybe even better than I. A detoxing elimination diet, which my experience with that was a pretty strictly live food diet for a month. But there are other ways to do it. It doesn't all have to be live. The basic premise is if you're not feeding junk food to the microbiome, the stuff that depends on junk food will die. You will get yourself in a better zone, and you'll start to be able to retain nutrients. A lot of good things happen. So maybe even ask Aldi some questions if he's willing to play that role. Yes, absolutely. Slowing down, chewing more consciously, not trying to do something else while you eat. So many aspects of this that matter. And yes, he's willing. So look, my version was eat live food for a month. That could be really hard. There's a lot of learning involved. Rainbow Green Live Food Cuisine will teach you, but there are gentler ways to accomplish the same goal. So be aware of that. If you know that this is a need you have, be ready to do a little research. It's worth it. And apparently Haldi is willing. So there you go. I want to build a community. Let's get it happening. All right. Perfect timing. I'm doing half hour, incidentally. Readings. Here we go. A couple of you asked for them already, but Fatima and then Todd, and I didn't notice who else did. So I'm going to start with Fatima. You have got some emotions going on. Every week, as soon as I tune into you, like empathically, I want to cry again. You know, one of the greatest gifts I often give people is just that it's sort of impossible to hide from a certain kind of vision. And it looks to me like you're just not allowing a depth of intimacy that you need. You might think that that's your fault, but for whatever reason, I'm someone who can reach you from afar, and this might be exactly what's right for you. Physical distance. I see you. I see the loneliness, and I really care. You don't have to give me a dime to make me care. And I'm really present with the fact that it's been too long since you've trusted more. I'm honored to be here in a way that you trust. This is enough to make a difference for you for a while, for a little bit. You don't need to push yourself into any big changes right now. You need to ease into this new life. You're discovering a new life in multiple ways, and I'm honored to be a part of that. It's on your shoulders. You bear some burdens. Your boundaries have kind of sucked. That's medium to long-term work for you to repair your boundaries, to repair when you say yes and when you say no, how you say yes and how you say no, and to give yourself a lot of patience. Please don't be so hard on yourself. Please don't be so hard on yourself. It's not helpful. It's not you that needs the more severe boundaries. It's other people in your life. And indeed, you're saying no to them, but wouldn't it be nice if you could say yes more and still say no when you need to say no? So I invite you into that hope that you can become so good at drawing your boundaries that you could actually say yes more and trust yourself to leave, to back away, to say no thank you, when aspects of intimacy are simply too intimate or simply not what you want. One more piece. You never have to explain why you say no. You should never have to explain it, because often you might not know. When you get in tune with intuition, your intuition may tell you to leave. And if you're with people who demand you explain it, say, I need space. I don't feel good right now. Keep it simple. I need to breathe. I need to be by myself. If they argue with that, that's why you're saying no. If people don't accept your no, that is why you're telling them no. And that's enough. Let that be enough. I pray that you feel strong within yourself, receive intuitions clearly of what you do and do not need, trust your ability to communicate your boundaries in these ways, and respect yourself and forgive yourself when that's a struggle, when it's difficult, when it's confusing. Keep going and trust that this path that you're on is a gift. It's a gift to you, and it's a gift for you to simply become stronger and more beautiful and more trusting in these ways. It is already a blessing to the people around you, and you will soon trust that more. Todd. Much calmer. Wow. Yeah. Great progress. It's enough. Don't push for more when you already you need to cherish the progress you're making right now. Don't push for more when the biggest missing piece is that you need a little bit of celebration, a little bit of good job to yourself. Appreciate this. Settle into the changes that you're going through. Now's not a time for any dramatic steps. I encourage you to learn to tell the difference between questions that are supposed to stay as questions. You're just supposed to hold it as a question. You're not looking for an answer tomorrow. Just holding it as a question will help you explore. Gut stuff, navel stuff. Holding still, holding your center, staying in poses longer is a way to cultivate this. And allowing a sense of wonder when something remains a question so that you can tell. Because when you try to answer a question too soon, there's a franticness that it's part of diagnosing. This isn't time. When you notice a certain kind of franticness and a seeking to answer things, you can learn to tell this franticness is my sign that it's not time to answer this yet. Later. A little in the future. It's better than patience. It's like stay inside this moment and appreciate that something really beautiful is already happening. Don't run down the path when like where you are is really special. Now, look, people, a lot of this can apply to many of you, but please be careful. If you know it applies to you, awesome. But so many things are true, but that doesn't mean it's the best priority for you right now. This tide is a priority for you. If it's a priority for any of the rest of you, great. But I don't want you to start internalizing the guidance I give to everyone and then just your brain explodes. Like we want to help you focus in on, very clear sense of the steps you can take to improve your life without getting too confused by everything else. Oh, wow. We got a lot going on here. Okay. Shenanigans, then Haldi. Excellent. Wow. I have a sense that you're in a position where you're seeing a lot of pieces uniting. Like you can recognize the way your different interests are they're coming into harmony. This is really special. I thoroughly encourage you to enjoy this. And now is definitely a sense of allowing. Like there's less doing. You know what you need to do when you need to do it. Don't try to do what you need to do when it's not time to do what you need to do. You need to allow this integration to happen because it's like there's energy dancing around you and it wants to harmonize. You've been accustomed to focusing on this and then focusing on this and then focusing on this. And there's an opportunity for you to sort of allow your perspective to broaden. And that's the best work you can do right now is to just allow your perspective to broaden so you recognize and really cherish the integration that's happening. As you do that, something is happening. It'll make you more magnetic and it will help you resolve some of the more worldly challenges that you're facing. So less stress on that. You're still going to have actions that you need to take in the world, but allow those actions to come from the sense of integration where it's like, oh, yes, this fits together. And you know the difference. You know the difference. With that in mind, I'm going to refer any of you, because I trust this, I'm going to refer any of you who are interested in going through nutritional changes to consider talking to Holly, because I know this is really a prominent need for so many people, and I feel like there's divine purpose in all these themes coming together for me today. And I have expertise up to a certain level where I know how to trust that this work needs to be done, but it's not my job. And Holly is a professional nutritionist, apparently, who knows how to help people in these ways. And quite frankly, make clear guidelines on like at what point can you give and at what point do people need to hire you for sessions where you tutor them, guide them in how to transform a diet. Bless you, Hadi. Om, Om Dita. I love it. Om Dita. Huh. The first thing I get is that you care about me in a way that is absent, in a way that, thank you. I think I have to get past this to see beneath, to be more supportive. The first thing I get is you asking me the question, why do they keep fighting with you? My understanding is that I'm presencing a complete range of energy, that most people in modern cultures are living in a manner that 2 classes ago I discussed. They're avoiding certain fundamental energies in a way that's built in. It's racist, essentially, but like cultures reject certain energy and embrace other energy. This system, wildflower fire, the system of the key ring, the cycle of moving through all 12 chakras and integrating them within your body means for multiple reasons that it's impossible to hide. Like you can't get rid of stuff that you create. You have to graciously find a home for everything and respect it. And just my presence brings that out in people. So I threaten the stability of many people's ways of being. I've long been a kind of catalyst in this way. Like I can be in a scene and things get weird. I have a profound influence on things. Life has a profound influence on things through me. This is how I've understood it. And this is why I think some people fight. And I've returned to my hometown and I'm in relationship. You've ever heard a prophet is never accepted their hometown? You know, some part of my community here doesn't thoroughly, I'm a hometown kid. They have a hard time recognizing me as someone who could be teaching them this kind of thing. So I think I have an added level of struggle around me. That's enough on that. Thank you for your care. I feel that care. And that's what it brought to the surface for me. For you, okay, there's a heaviness in your heart. You just gave me a real gift carried about me. You have some forgiving. You are holding resentment towards people who have hurt you. And it's hurting you. It's really strong. You're used to it, so it's normal. I urge you, you've been here since the beginning. I have no doubt that you were part of influencing me to emphasize the role of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not for other people, it's for you. When you forgive, it's not about saying, let's go back to who we were. It's not about saying, be my best friend again. It's not about saying you get another try. It doesn't mean put yourself in a position where that person hurts you the same way again. It means you don't maintain your resentment. Keep your boundary. Keep them at a distance. You don't need to do anything with them, but don't keep hating them. And if you find that as you let go of that, if that hate, if resentment has been a boundary for you, and forgive me if you don't feel this as like you hate, there's still something in there that is red, it's rage, it's here. That is probably serving as a boundary for you. And you need to commit to making a boundary without this. You need the boundary to be, I know that that relationship produces a negativity for me that doesn't work. And you need to trust yourself in that. This is too heavy on your heart. It's unacceptably heavy on your heart. Definitely the biggest thing. The heart-mind coherence meditation. I really encourage you to work with it 3 times a day. I swear to you. Do it every day for a week for sure. If you can do it 3 times a day, memorize it. I'm not asking you to pay attention to me that much. Do it if it works, but memorize it. Memorize it so you can follow it yourself. And if you want to learn more about it, there's a lot of research on the heart-mind coherence meditation that'll offer more support. But I can't encourage you to use that enough. Okay, I gotta keep moving here. Gotta keep moving. Elia. Grief, an old relationship, grief. It's stuck. It's really inhibiting you. You have not come to terms with an old relation. It looks to me, and please confirm this if it's true, because it's strong and I want to make sure I'm being accurate. It looks to me like you had a relationship that you thought would be lifelong, marriage, children, and it didn't. I would really like to know if I'm wrong on this, because that's what I see. And it's really inhibiting you. If you feel comfortable confirming this, please do. There's more, but I don't really want to offer more because it feels personal. So unless you tell me it's okay and that I'm on the right track. Ungrieved relationships don't go away. They're still there. I'm going to make a prayer because this has been an issue for a while for many. I mean, this is an issue for so many people. I pray that we each trust the sacred essence of the relationships that we have lived in this life. I pray that we trust the love that extends beyond this lifetime, which is present to heal the greatest wounds, the greatest pain, the greatest failures, breakups. Please guide us each in the ways we need to trust the love that helps heal, grieve, and release relationships that are no longer with us and are no longer for us, so that we may be open to the love that is present, that is available within the relationships we each currently share, and to be open to the relationships that will become available as grief creates space for new life. Oh, bless you. Bless you, Om. Om Dita. Elia. Oh. So The next part that I got is you're trying so hard not to be angry that you're trying so hard not to be angry that you're not moving through the process, and it's okay to be angry. Uh, you need to allow the anger. You can maintain a prayer for the well-being of the person you're angry at, but at the moment, this you're stuck. You're trying so hard not to be angry that the grief process isn't working. You're not moving through it, and it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry, to be let down. It's okay to be angry, to lose a shared dream. It's part of it. It's healthy. Move through it. Fear, anger, sadness, joy. Allow all of these feelings, often in that order, sometimes in a mess. Ask for company. There is nothing you need to say specifically to the person. You can write it as if they hear it. When you make these changes in yourself, you liberate them as well. You do not need to call them, but you can write it. Trust that if you hold that letter for a while, the message will get through. And in the process, let yourself feel the full range of feeling. Hey, Marquise. I'm so glad to hear it. I am. I am. I am. I'm going to address Marquise. You asked me all these questions, and it took me like 3 weeks maybe even more before I did the reading. And then when I did it, like for real, that was really fucking difficult. And it's not your fault. It's hard to make that bridge. It's easy for me to talk to Thoth, but it's really quite difficult for me to do it that way and in response to other people's questions. It brings a lot to life. So I meant it, and I'm going to maintain it so far. I will do that for $1,000. So this time you paid me by setting me up. Look, a lot of people in this world don't believe that this is what's real and what's happening, but it's a rare thing, and it took me a lot of work to get this capable. So I believe my first instinct that I thought that you would help me step into myself, challenge me to be who I know I can be, and that's the best way for now that I can presence it. So for the record, anybody pulls together $1,000, you could get 20 people who each ask a question. Within an hour or so, it could be a little more, a little less of a reading time, and I will ask all those questions to Thoth. But other than that, I am not. I am not available to ask questions. Somebody beautiful, very interesting from Finland wrote me asking me questions for Thoth the next day, and I haven't responded to say no. I can't do that. It's simply, it's too much work, and quite frankly, it would be worth it to me for $1,000. It took the whole day. I got a headache twice. I couldn't put my son to sleep. That's what would make it worthwhile for now. And after doing it a couple times that way, we'll see how it goes. Oh, Om Dita, bless you so much. It's an honor. And the first thing I felt from you is your care for me, meaning you're seeing me in a way with compassion that I need. Thank you. Maha, bless you so much. Thank you for being here. Maha Lakshmi. Oh, Elia, I'm so grateful. I'm so glad. I will add, take it easy on yourself. These are deep feelings. The fact that I can feel so deeply empathically means I'm gonna meditate and take a look at these themes in my own life, because when I resonate that much with someone else, it's always healthy for me to readdress the ways my relationships linger and the ways I could may have some more work to do. But also, it's raw. It's really vulnerable. So try to be careful with what you take in for a while you're doing this work, but certainly for today and into tomorrow. Um, make conscious choices about who you spend time with, what media you do and do not pay attention to. Take care of yourself. Just cherish you right now. Yes, Tamim. I think I didn't miss anybody. If I've missed anyone requesting a reading, say so now. I got a little more time to do it, but barely. Tamim, um, I think I'm gonna do I'm gonna do one more class for just yoga and meditation. Um, I don't know when I'm gonna schedule it yet. I'm gonna try to do it on Friday. Okay. Um, I can't promise the time yet because I got to work it in. But my goal for a little while is I want to try 2 classes out because I want to do more yoga and meditation, and that's I'll try doing it live, and we'll see how it goes. I'll commit to one, and we'll see how that goes, and hopefully it's something that can build and be repeated. Thank you, guys. I'm going to tune in, see if there's any last bits. Oh yes, 333. Forgive me. I think you did ask. I get so overwhelmed by how the chat window works. Yes, I can still give you. All right. Now look, forgive me if that's the first thing I got. And I'd like to know if that's true or not, or whether there's something in the way. The next thing I get, it is not too much. Oh, no. That's still the original thing. All right. So do answer that if you can, because I want to know if I'm accurate. You can smoke too much pot. Okay. It's possible. When people are healing, I do encourage you to, there's a time when you could say smoke as much as you want. It comes at a cost. It's not great for your health. It's not great for your lungs. It induces lethargy. I've addressed this more deeply in other live feeds. I do think sometimes it's the best thing people can do for themselves, particularly when you're going through major transitions, grieving. It's hard to put a formula to it. But when you do clean your space, clean yourself, eat decently, some form of exercise, some form of art, all 5 of those things, you are ready to chill it out. That's the reading I get. If this isn't for you, I'm stunned. So please tell me if I'm off, because this is coming through too clearly. Internet cut off just on your question. That's just too much of a trip. Maybe I'm referring to someone else. I'm going to tune in again. Huh. So I want you to go back and listen to what I recorded when you were gone on your own time, but we don't need to address it any further. What I get is you're sitting too long on some of your ideas. You're waiting too long. You need to take smaller actions. Looks to me like you're accustomed to blitzkriegs. Like you'll do a lot at once, and that is a skill, and there's a time and a place for it. But really, you need to work on solid investments that are continuous in some of your longer term goals and ideas. So I want you to really explore what that could mean. What are some solid steps you can take to invest in what your dreams are? This is crucially important for you because there's an art where, that's such a trip. Interesting. There's an art where you take solid steps towards what you believe is a goal, and then life will help teach you how to change your goal. If you hold your goals too tight, and you keep perfecting them, you have to come to terms with the fact that there's some control issues going on there, and that the biggest problem is you're probably off. Without allowing life to have some feedback and a conversation with you about a better way you could do things, a better way you can dream of a better life. If you don't expose yourself, if you don't take steps to make your ideas real, you're not going to be able to receive that feedback. So I'm going to encourage you in particular. This is good for most people to hear, but for you in particular, 3-3, I want you to take some solid steps towards some of your goals, and then to listen for the feedback from the world, which might likely going to adjust them somewhat. But let that adjustment happen. Be with that adjustment. You can do this. Something in you, you've been wrapped up in a sense that you're too afraid to act. You've been wrapped up in some hesitation about being exposed. Don't try to do it all. Just take some solid steps, rest, and listen. Hope that makes sense. Thank you, guys. I really mean it. Your respect, your care, your time and attention are a gift to me. You're helping me tune in to my calling on a much deeper level. What I just said to 3-3 is definitely applying to me. I've had some pretty specific ideas about what my future would hold for a long time, and I've certainly been building it. But there's a profound change that's happening as I do this live feed class. This specifically wasn't on my agenda to do these live feed classes. I celebrated that I had 500 subscribers by doing live readings, and I didn't understand what a graceful format this would be, and how much it means to me to do it this way, to build somewhat of a community. I want you to know that this is going somewhere. This is a divine calling, and it's not just for me. I am honored to hold this space, and I really would be blessed if each of you would consider, brainstorm, like what could a group of people who learn to tune into each other all over the world, there are people from all over the world here coming back every week for a couple of months, that's already amazing. What can we do? How can we make amazing waves, amazing loving waves in the world? I'm going to keep adding some yoga and some meditation, because that's one of the core ways to strengthen such things. And I hope I look forward to seeing you in that form. Something stuttering. There's something left to say. Yeah, I've got a prayer for me. My wife and my wife has had 4 miscarriages in the past 4 years, 3 in this past year. 1 in the fall, 1 in March, 1 in June. And now we have a baby coming. 17 weeks out of the first trimester. It's really difficult knowing that she's miscarried. For all of us, it's just like, it's hard to be in the joy. It's hard to be in the hope. And that joy and hope is medicine. It's like, we need that. We need to trust it. Now, miscarriages typically occur early. They typically occur in the first trimester, often around 6-7 weeks. The body, a woman's body, in many ways knows that an embryo isn't healthy and will miscarry. So all of the miscarriages she's had have been much earlier. Nonetheless, it's scary. And so if you could pray for us in that, for a healthy pregnancy and a healthy child, be really grateful. That's certainly the greatest gift that you could give us right now, because it's seriously beautiful being in this time. And I want to stay with this hope and this love. So to the extent you can help us, be grateful. Thank you, guys. That's it. I'm going to release a new video this week that I made a version a year and a half ago. It was the first version I made when I learned Premiere because it was the most important video that I had sort of backlogged in me, and it wasn't very good, and I was never satisfied with it. So it got like 400, 500 views, and I took it down because it didn't do the job. So now I'm much better, and I'm making a new version, and I'm excited to share it with you. It's all about my metaphor for spiritual awakening. I hope you'll love it. Hope you'll share it. So look forward to that sometime this week as well. Bless you guys. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week. Much love.